That in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, other than the public forum section, this meeting is being live streamed. If you could all be upstanding for the prayer of council, which will be read by Pastor Samantha Bulmer from the Lightgate Church, and then that will be followed by the national anthem.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to open tonight's meeting in prayer. Before we begin proceedings, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and their ancestors past and present, the Carbragul clan of the Durrung Nation. I also acknowledge that this land was assessed by the peoples of the Darul and Daruk nations. We affirm our hope and dedication to the good government of our city and well-being of all Liverpool's residents, no matter their race or creed. Tonight, we affirm our hope for sound decision-making by Council, which will improve the quality of life in our city. We express our expectations and best wishes for Australia, our nation's future, the Mayor, councillors and staff of Council, and all those associated with good government in Liverpool. Now let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you for all who are gathered here tonight. We pray for your wisdom and for your guidance, for our leaders as they discuss and make decisions here tonight. We pray for your blessing over this meeting and for your blessing over the residents of Liverpool. In Jesus' name, amen.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath our radiant southern cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who come across the seas, we've boundless place to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you. You could all be seated. Apologies. Thank you, Councillor Chitty. Seconded. Thank you, Councillor Yard. I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, are carried. Any condolences? Nope. Minutes of the ordinary meeting.
Mayor, can I ask a question? And I have already told the CEO this,
Yep.
but through to the CEO before I move the minutes, on page 69, and I'm saying this only so that people understand why I'll move a motion with the minutes. Page 69, there was a QWN in my name relating to parking meters, which we had a discussion on and things were to be implemented. Do you believe that a response to the effect, or actually not to the effect, exactly being bad luck next time and it's an $82 fine, is in line with what we discussed?
No, Councillor, I'm afraid to say that that's not satisfactory to me, and I'm going to look further into that.
Thank you. Can I move the minutes, Mayor, to receive and note, but also a number 2, I take it, and I'm not sure how to word it, but to extend the education program for another 30 days or till the end of November in relation to parking meters.
Given these is the adoption of the minutes, I would rather see that in the body of the council meeting in a different position. I don't think adding it to previous minutes is a way to go, but I'm happy to entertain it in a later part of the meeting because I'm conscious you do have a question on the books. So you can put it on there.
QWN04.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just a minor amendment. Comma 1, the grants, just in terms of when I came and left, I have the distinct impression that I coincidentally left during the grants and coincidentally came back after the grants, but that's not the way it reads.
Madam Mayor, I also was not in the room when that decision was made.
So the minutes need to be amended that neither Councillor Haggerty or Councillor Caliendo are in the room during that item.
And Cunib.
And Councillor Cunningham. Okay, thank you. With that amendment, any other amendments?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Hull.
On EGRO 04 in the minutes, I believe that...
What page is that, please, Councillor?
Sorry, page 8.
8, thank you. Just let us get there. Right, yes, Councillor?
EGRO 04, it refers to Middleton Grange. If I did put one in, I would have put it in by mistake because it would have been about Warwick Farm, not Middleton Grange.
You're correct, Councillor, and I remember you doing that. We can amend the minutes and just make sure that the declaration of interest refers to the correct item for you.
Thank you, that amendment is noted. Any other items for amendment? We have a mover for the minutes. Could we have a seconder, please?
I will second.
Thank you. I'll put it. Those in favour, those against? Declare it carried. Any declarations of interest? No? None? Okay. Now we have a public forum and we have a representative. We have Ms Larissa Chan, Director of Financial Audited Services, and Mr Faruqan Yusuf, who is the Audit Leader from the Audit Office, who wishes to address Council on the following item, Corp 04. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Larissa Chan and this is Furqan Yusuf from the Audit Office of New South Wales. We're pleased to be here for the 4th year auditing this council. Our role at the Audit Office is to provide independent assurance over the council's financial statements. This is particularly important for councils like Liverpool, which houses Sydney's 3rd CBD, enters into a number of capital projects such as the Liverpool Civic Place, and as well as some exciting initiatives such as the Western Sydney City Deal. We've now completed our audit of the 18-19 financial statements, and I'm pleased to inform you that we will be issuing a clean audit opinion. I think there's a bit of a ring. Yeah.
It's up a bit too loud, I think.
Is it? Yeah.
Just if you could stand back a bit from the mic, that might help a little bit.
Is that better?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Continue and let's see how we go.
Okay. So we basically completed our...
No, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
Oops.
Can Larissa come up to my desk? Larissa, can I suggest you come up to my desk and do it from here so you've got a clean mic?
Okay, sure.
Just turn that one off. Yep.
Position. Can you hear me better now? Yeah, it's a lot better. Or maybe not. Maybe it's me. So we basically completed our audit of the 18-19 financial statements, and I'm really pleased to inform you that we'll be issuing a clean audit opinion. So that basically means that the financial statements present fairly and they comply with the auditing standards. Liverpool City Council also exceeded the Office of Local Government ratios for 5 out of the 6 key performance ratios, and improved on most ratios compared to prior years. I'll just quickly like to touch on the top 3 areas of focus during the audit. So the first one was the infrastructure, property, plants and equipment. So this year management performed a comprehensive revaluation over a number of asset classes, such as the roads, the bridges, the footpaths, the stormwater drainage, open space, recreational assets and other structures. Management also applied indexation for the building assets as well. These all resulted in a revaluation increment, which was appropriately recorded in the financial statements. We also looked at IT controls as well. Obviously, councils hold a lot of sensitive information, so it's really important that there's adequate IT controls in place for this. The third item was the new accounting standards. So this year, the main change in the accounting standards was the accounting standard for financial instruments. And then next year, there's new standards for leases and revenue as well. So management have done a comprehensive assessment over these new standards. They were able to quantify these in the 18-19 financial statements. If we move on to the report to Parliament, so every year the Auditor General issues a local government sector report to Parliament. The next report is scheduled to be released in February 2020. It will basically highlight our observations from the 18-19 financial statements for all 140 councils. We'll basically share some insights around financial reporting, financial sustainability, asset management, governance and IT. The Office of Local Government recently released the Your Council website, which can be used by ratepayers to benchmark council performance information. Our mandate also extends to performance audit. Earlier this year, we tabled 3 performance audit reports. The first report was the workplace reform in 3 amalgamated councils. The second one was the domestic waste management in Campbelltown and Fairfield councils. And the third one was on development assessments. There's currently 3 performance audits in progress. So the first one's on credit card management, the second one's on procurement, and the third one's on developer contributions and voluntary planning agreements, of which Liverpool Council is an auditee. The following year, the performance audits will be on audit risk and improvement committees, cybersecurity and rural water supply and sewerage charges. These reports will be made available on the Audit Office website. I'll now pass on to Furkan to step us through the conduct reports.
Thank you, Larissa. Through you, Ms. Mayor, upon completion of the audit, we will be issuing a report, commonly known as Report on the Conduct of the Audit, which is mandated by the Local Government Act. The legislation also prescribes the content of the report. In this report, we will be discussing briefly the movements in the key balances within the income statement, the movements in cash and investment balances, and the outcome of the performance ratios prescribed by the former Office of Local Government. My next few slides provides a high-level overview of this report. Income statement, just let's stay with income statement. Yes, thank you. So this slide illustrates the movements in the key balances within the income statement. As you can see, the rates and annual charges revenue of the council increased by 5 million or 4.3%, which is in line with the rate increase approved by the Independent Pricing and Regulatory Tribunal of New South Wales, in addition to the increase in rateable properties during the year. The grants and contributions revenue decreased by almost 19 million or 14%. This reduction was mainly due to a decrease in cash contributions levied and collected under Section 711 of the Local Government Act. The council's operating result for the year was a surplus of 97 million or 14%. Was a surplus of 97 million, which was 20 million less than the prior year. This was mainly due to the reduction in grants and contributions revenue as previously discussed. The council's net operating result before capital grants and contributions was a surplus of 1.8 million, 1 million higher than the last year. This movement was mainly attributable to the increase in rates revenue, as well as the following additional factors. The revenue of 5 million from the receipt of ex gratia rate payment by Moorbank Intermodal Company, the revenue of 2 million from the reversal of previously recorded impairment of land under road, an increase in employee benefit expenditure of 9 million, mainly due to higher FTEs, and an increase in materials and contracts expenditure by 2 million due to higher contractor and consultancy costs. If you can go to the next slide, the cash and investments. So the council's total cash and investment balance was 271 million at 30 June 2019. This was 14 million higher than the last year. Council had 44 million in unrestricted cash at the year end. This cash was available for the council to perform the day-to-day operations. Remaining cash and investment balance is restricted for specific internal and external purposes. Overall, the council has reported significant cash and investments at hand at 30th June 2019. The next slide is on performance ratios. The former Office of Local Government prescribed 6 key performance measures which are audited and included within the general purpose financial statements of the council. Liverpool City Council met or exceeded the prescribed industry benchmark for 5 out of 6 performance ratios. The council did not meet the industry benchmark for the rates and annual charges outstanding percentage. Management believes that this is due to an overall trend of more ratepayers deferring their rate payments to later dates. Overall, the council has reported strong financial results, and I congratulate management and the team on this achievement. We would like to thank the staff of the council for their professionalism and cooperation during the conduct of our audit.
Are you happy to take some questions?
Yes, if there are any.
Any questions, Councillor Haggerty?
Yeah, just you sort of answered it, but the fit for the future thing that we didn't tick the box on, can you just speak to that a bit more, just the rates and in layman's term, how has that formula worked out and sort of what's changed from last year to put us in the position that it has?
So the rates and annual charges percentage, the council just didn't meet it. So the benchmark is 5%, and I think council was 5.2%. It's due to the economic environment. Rate payers are deferring payment of rates essentially. And there's, in terms of surrounding councils, it seems to be a similar issue as well. So it's just Western Sydney. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Sorry, just one in relation to that. Do you see that trend continuing into the future? In terms of rates?
It's difficult to predict into the future, but I'll just say the current trend is for the Western councils is that some aren't meeting that ratio. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Haggerty?
Not sure if it's a question or a comment. I'll turn it into a question. I saw a report a couple of months ago that had the top 5 suburb postcodes for mortgage stress. 1 was Edmondson Park, 2 was West Hoxton, Middleton Grange, that area. I don't know who can answer this question, but I guess does the state government have any intention of tweaking these figures in line with economic circumstances? They might make sense. They might have made sense 4 years ago when they were cooked up, but if we're in an economic downturn and some of these are, I guess, based on cyclical economic circumstances, then it does seem a somewhat silly thing to measure councils on, especially ones in Western Sydney.
So I guess the former Office of Local Government set these ratios, so it's probably some feedback that you might want to provide to them, but yeah.
That's something council could do, councillor. Any other questions?
Just a couple, if I may. Thanks for the report. In the unrestricted reserves, there's about $44 million, it's mentioned here somewhere that council has loan not taken up yet of about 190 million for Civic Place. Part of that unrestricted reserve was going to be used for repayments. Does it make sense now to set aside some of that money for the repayments of that so that we can have a better understanding of what's actually unrestricted?
So I guess it's council's discretion as to what they want to set aside as unrestricted cash, but some amount will have to be set aside for the Liverpool Civic Place. There's a huge capital commitment there. So,
Would you like Mr Nadan to expand on that, councillor?
The other thing, and it's not staff that, because they're going with the accounting practices, but how is it an accounting practice where I receive money in this financial year, actually hits my account, but I can bill it to the previous financial year? I can book it in there because I knew that it was coming. I mean, and staff are playing with the accounting standards rules, so there's nothing untoward here. But how is that an accounting standard where you can receive money today and book it for the last financial year?
I'm not sure whether that's an accounting rule.
I can take that question. So, according to the accounting standards that are mandated by the Office of Local Government and the Local Government Code of Accounting Practice, any revenue that is received for a particular financial year needs to be recorded in that financial year. I understand your question is from the perspective of the revenue for the intermodal company. That amount was received post-year end, but they belong to the previous years before 2018-19, and that's why they were recorded in 2018-19, because the council had an entitlement to receive that amount before 30th June 19.
Sorry, but it goes against what you just said, where you bill something when you receive it, yet because we're entitled to it in the previous year, it's an accounting standard, but it just sort of...
Excuse me, councillor, I'd just like to stop you there. We have two independent auditors here delivering a report. I don't think getting into a discussion about what you believe and what they believe is important at this point. If you have an issue with the audit, I would suggest you put it as a motion when that audit item comes up.
Sorry, with all respect, Mayor, there's a audit report in front of us.
Yes.
There's talk of 5 odd million from the intermodal. There's talk of 100. I'm only talking about here. And
I understand what you're doing.
In relation to...
Councillor, you got an explanation from the auditor. I don't think now having a continued dialogue on it is going to be useful, given they're here to demonstrate what happened in the audit. If you have some issues that you feel are important enough to be considered by the council, I would suggest you make it a resolution within the council.
Sorry, Mayor, but all I was asking was I received a response which I took on board.
Yep.
Which said when you receive the money, you bill it for that
That's
year.
right. Thank you.
But then I was told this was a different case. So I was just trying to get an understanding on that. I'm not pushing him. I just need to understand so that... And I've heard from the staff before and I've taken that on board, but then I just heard two things there. So I'm just trying to get clarification.
It's okay. The auditor said he's happy to take it further if you so wish.
Yes, I can try to explain once more. Once the council is entitled to any revenue, the council can record that in the financial statements as revenue, even if it is not received.
Which is... Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I'd just like to congratulate the Audit Office and our hard-working staff on a splendid result.
And your microphone's ringing as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, given that we've had the presentation and it is on the books, I'm going to move Corpo 4 forward because we have the auditors here. It's on page 69 of your addendum document. And I'd like a mover of the recommendation.
Move that way, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sheldon.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Is there any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried.
Can I be recorded as voting against, Mayor, please?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so, right. Now the next... Turned off, I think. The next item on the agenda is 2 mayoral minutes. Let's see what order they're in. The first is relating to the Liverpool Innovation Precinct Land Use and Precinct Strategy launch. It is a mouthful. The Liverpool Innovation Precinct Land Use and Precinct Strategy sets out a vision for Liverpool's Innovation Precinct, a significant part of our city centre, and is the result of great ambition and collaboration. The strategy was enthusiastically launched today at Ingham's Institute for Applied Medical Research with the Minister for Planning and Public Spaces, the Honourable Rob Stokes MP, delivering a keynote speech at the event. The Minister strongly supported Liverpool's case as a true innovation precinct, highlighting the combination of state government investment, collaboration from key partners and leadership from Council. He told an audience of senior health and planning professionals that Liverpool had put together a compelling case to be the city centre of the Western Parkland City. Over the past 2 years, members of the Liverpool Innovation Committee have worked tirelessly to put together a vision for the precinct, and in that space of time, milestones have also been achieved, one of them being the $740 million commitment from the New South Wales Government to transform the Liverpool Hospital into a world-leading hospital and academic precinct. The precinct partners are committed to leveraging this large public commitment to create an environment that will attract even more public sector investment to the precinct. The 9 founding partners of the Liverpool Innovation Precinct have embraced the opportunity to collaborate and build Liverpool into a dynamic city that will attract and retain the best and brightest talent both locally and abroad. It was an honour to speak at the event on behalf of the Council and the community. I move that the Council receive and note this minute. Any opposition? Oops. I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? The carried. Can I say the event was definitely worth attending, and the Minister made it clear that he sees us as the third CBD. The second one is the Liverpool Youth Council 20th anniversary. In May 1999, Council endorsed a youth strategy that included the aim of establishing a Liverpool Youth Council. The purpose of the Youth Council is to provide a link between young people and the Council and act as a consultative mechanism, plan and organise cultural, environmental, recreational and social activities citywide for young people to promote the interests of young people in Liverpool. I'm sitting as far back as I can. Oh! My thing come off. Okay, I've been turned down and I now have a buffer. Over the past 20 years, the Liverpool Youth Council played an invaluable role in the development of local youth interested in improving their local community and allowing their voice to be heard in decisions made by this council. The Youth Council has strived to achieve its purpose through the hosting of the annual Youth Week activities, initiating the CBD Exposed Music Festival, and members volunteering and participating in various council events and consultative forums. Youth Council members attend monthly meetings and have been active in the community consultation with many local students to make improvements where possible to support the community and Council's activities. In 2019, it is the anniversary of the first Liverpool Youth Council. The current members of the committee are planning a 20th anniversary function and to invite all previous members to celebrate this great achievement. My recommendation is that Council acknowledges the success of the Youth Council and its commitment to its members from 1999 to 2019 and contribute an amount of $2,500 to support the Liverpool Youth Council's 20th anniversary event on Thursday the 21st of November. I formally move that. Is there any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried.
Madam Mayor, before you move on, I have a matter of urgency. Thank you.
Yes, what is your urgency motion, Councillor?
Yes, with any luck it'll come up on the board soon, shortly. Madam Mayor, while it's coming up, it relates to the fast 15th Avenue Smart Transit Way, that's 15th Avenue and Hoxton Park Road out to the airport. The Roads and Maritime Service had a public consultation on Saturday the 19th, also on Monday the 21st. The matter was the subject of a briefing, thank you, on the 24th of October, which of course is after the deadline for notices of motion. The proposal on the part of the RMS involves curbside transit way together with centre running transit way, varying at various stages along the transit way out to the airport. As is shown on paragraph, Council is concerned about the potential for major intersection layout requirements and reduced traffic efficiency if the rapid transit serviceway indeed fluctuates between curbside running and centre running out to the airport. Council has already put in a submission expressing its views in relation to as much, and councillors have a copy of it. However, no doubt it would be enhanced if it was supported by a resolution of this council. Hence, I move the matter of urgency, and in fact, it's moved in the joint names of Councillor Chidi and myself.
I just want to ask a question before I make a ruling.
They're calling for submissions.
Right, thank you very much. I just want to clarify the point. I'll deem it as urgent because they are calling for submissions right now. We've already put in one, and this will be our second attempt to get them to listen. So your recommendation is before you. It's moved by Councillor Sheldon and seconded by Councillor Chitty.
Mayor, just on the recommendation, and obviously with council, if the mover agrees, I think we need to go a little bit further in the recommendation and ask the media team to actually prepare a strategy and get this out to the public. So if I can add that on, obviously with the mover's consent, that we actually do a media campaign in relation to this.
Could I also suggest that in your motion, because it is a very important motion, that we make urgent representation physically as well on our dissatisfaction with what has happened to date. And I think you could delegate the CEO to that role or whomever, but I think it really is important to strike while the iron's hot, as they say.
Yes, the transitway is crucial to the future of Liverpool.
It is, yes.
And happy to take on board the amendments suggested by Councillor Chudi and also yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so to undertake a media campaign and to delegate to the CEO that our concerns are immediately conveyed to the RMS and our dissatisfaction.
Minister for Transport?
Minister for and the Minister of Transport as well. Sorry, yes, that'd be better.
Question.
Yeah.
If the mover and seconder would be open, I think one of the other issues that's been raised is the intersection at Dorrigo Avenue. There's a row of shops that have been there for longer than I've been alive. I think they've been there for many, many years, and they've been there since that was a sort of unsealed one-lane road. The proposal is to turn that into a blocked intersection where it's sort of left in, left out. Those businesses, some of them are award-winning businesses. You got La Rumbla, which I think was mentioned in the Telegraph earlier this week. They're going to be devastated by this, and I think it's unfair. Or they're going to be devastated by what's been proposed.
Well, can I suggest, Councillor, that with our concerns in regards to speaking to the Minister, that we include mention of the Dorrigo Road entrance and exit as an example of how we're very, very concerned and we oppose any suggestion that it be closed. Would you be comfortable with that being included in the motion? Oh, well, I'm asking the mover and seconder.
Can we speak for and then reconsider that?
Yes, certainly you can speak for it.
And Council, I think it was the first time we've all sat in a briefing session, and there was a few of us at the briefing session where it wasn't just one or two people having a crack at the presenters. It was all the councillors, and then to see staff then jump in on the end of it. We're on a unity ticket in relation to this proposal. The presentation started with, we see your vision for a smart transit way through from Liverpool to the airport, yet, we're going to make the roads so unusable it's not funny. And it was good to see that everybody's on the same board. I think in general, we need to stop playing nice, and I know there's nice glossy brochures and everything's happening with this smart transit way, but Councillor Kellyander, for example, raised the issue of why not the whole of Hoxton Park Road? Why not the intersection of the Hume Highway? I think Council needs to start taking its gloves off and start going in there and really fighting with the local and state members to say enough is enough. I'm sure you have been, but I think we need to ramp it up even more, whether it's a media campaign, whatever it takes. The upgrade to the Hume Highway at Hoxton Park Road, all the way through to the airport. This Hoxton Park Road is a joke. They told us it doesn't work, but we're not going to be able to build our way out of trouble. It's going to cost us too much if they go with the sensible approach, which unfortunately they let slip. and that's probably why they're going with a bad option. Council has proven over the years that we've delayed projects to ensure we get a good outcome. Benira Road, when it was designed as a one road, we delayed it and built it as two. Carnes Hill Precinct was supposed to be on 4,000 square metres. We delayed it, spent more money and made it into a good thing. So we've proven that we will delay things and spend more money for a better outcome in the future. Council, I think it's time for us to stop sitting back and clapping them. It's time to get out there and really push a campaign, whether it's media, whether it's staff, whether it's you, Mayor, at every opportunity you see them, saying we're not going to take this anymore because the brochures are one thing, but actually delivering is what people are expecting.
The CEO wishes to add to your comments.
I'd just like to seek some clarification, because I actually think what you're asking for, councillors, is a communications campaign, which would involve a far broader strategy than just the media. So if we can get that reflected on the resolution, that's useful for me.
Yeah, consent to that, thank you.
My suggestion to take up Councillor Chitty's sentiment would be to say, and Minister of Transport and all political representatives in the area, and that would cover that whole matter. And it's Dorigo in the bottom there. Oh, okay, thank you.
And Madam Mayor,
yes,
are we allowed to address in this, as we progress up to the M12, and our disappointment with the Elizabeth Drive intersection, that you are not going to be able, they're restricting.
Well, can I suggest what you do, Councillor? We put it as another number. It should be a separate motion, but given it's all to do with the similar thing, that our dissatisfaction with the fact that Elizabeth Drive won't have an on-ramp to the M12 or an exit ramp.
Or off.
Mayor, just in relation to this whole motion, can we keep it on, and we're talking about the strategy for everything else. This is designed for Hoxton Park Road, which is an issue in front of us today. I'd hate to take away the focus from Hoxton Park Road to every other road in Liverpool. We'll leave that as a communication strategy or a whatever it was that we agreed on campaign with the media team, and have this solely focused on Hoxton Park Road.
I take your point, Councillor. I'm just trying for the sake of time, because I think everybody understands that the submission's been called again, and we want to make sure that we get our voices heard on these matters ASAP. I mean, if you wish, we could take Councillor Rhodes' motion as an urgency motion as well and deal with it separately after this motion, which might be a cleaner way to do it. But any other discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, just to follow on from Councillor Chitty's point, I think one of the things that stood out to me in that briefing session was the fact that all of these different issues or pinch points along Hoxton Park Road are being treated as discrete projects, discrete issues, without kind of looking at the transit road in its entirety. So something that I hope that the mover and seconder would be comfortable with is advocating for, within RMS or within the department. What is it now? Transport for New South Wales. Within Transport for New South Wales, advocating for Hoxton Park Road to be treated in its entirety rather than as separate sections. So in our advocacy and communications to the Minister and to the department, actually talking about that as a potential course of action going forward.
Yes, I think that the mover and seconder are happy with that. Okay, what Councillor Kellyanne is asking is that be included in the discussion that we explain that the whole of Hoxton Park Road and 13th Avenue, everything be explained, that it's all joined, and you can't just deal with one bit without the other, basically.
And I suppose in point 4, when we're doing to the RMS and Minister of Transport, and that instead of naming Dorigo Road and everything else, I mean, we know the issues, whoever's doing that then does it, and we just focus this on the design of
I hear you, but I think that's a good example of how we're not happy with it, and it will come up in discussion. Okay, is there any opposition? I'll put it, those in favour, those against, declare it unanimous. Councillor Rhodes, I'll take your motion as urgent, that we are also dissatisfied with the M12 and the lack of an on-ramp and exit ramp onto Elizabeth Drive, and that isn't...
I'm happy to second that.
that is something that also needs to be addressed in the same manner as the previous urgency motion. You happy with that? Okay, I'll just for the sake of time, and I'll explain why in a moment, I'm going to put it, those in favour, those against, declare it unanimous. We're going to have a 10-minute break. No, we're not going to have a 10-minute break? No, hold on. It's to do with the sound equipment.
Councillors, can I please firstly apologise for the sound equipment? We clearly have some technical issues. We could attempt to reboot it, but there is no guarantee it's going to make the difference.
Well,
So,
I'm going to
Madam Mayor,
say we're going to have a 10-minute break and we will reboot the system in the hope that it comes back happy. Thank you.
Have you tried restarting your computer?
Can we please minute that comment from Councillor Chidi?
We're turning it on and off again.
Test.
Problems. Fortunately, we're not flying. The computer system, and are we streaming?
It should start in a second.
Okay, there are some issues, so if people have motions, etc., from here on in, please be aware that the staff will have to probably transcribe everything manually and may not be able to do it straight off the computer into the program. So I'm asking for everybody's cooperation in something that's a bit stressful this evening. Okay, thank you for coming back. The first issue on our agenda is on page 71 and it's CEO 01.
I move receipt and note. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Shelton.
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against are carried. Next item's on page 107.
Can I ask some questions, Mayor?
Certainly.
In relation to this, through to either yourself, obviously you've been part of this for a while, or the relevant director.
Yes.
I note the councils that are on this, and obviously then there's going to be an overlap between the ROCs. I understand this is totally different to the ROCs, but it also talks about policies, standards, procedures, strategic plans and whatnot. Governance. Is there going to be an overlap and maybe a ROC that we're part of going one way and this forum going another way?
I have to say, Councillor, that, and this is based on my own experience, it's a very different process to the ROCs, and I was on a ROC for many years. It is very much focused on the Aerotropolis and the growth around the Aerotropolis, where a ROC, as you know, has a bigger agenda and bigger other issues on its plate. So this is particularly aimed at the Aerotropolis and the relationship of the 8 councils in that Aerotropolis area. The 8 councils were nominated by the federal government of the day. It wasn't a sort of a lottery or a EOI process or anything like that. So the relationship is very much about those 8 councils affected by the Aerotropolis, but also the airport being constructed. So, I mean, where that all goes when the airport and the Aerotropolis is complete is another issue. That will obviously be in some time. But based on places overseas, such as Manchester and also Launceston and Townsville, when the projects were completed, then the city deal process was no longer really required. So this is, in a sense, got a time limit where the ROCs don't.
All right, just further, and then going to the charter, on page 119, 4.1b, the role of the Mayor Forum will be to, and I suppose I see clarification on, it says endorse a delivery program. Is that a delivery program?
Sorry, which number was it, Councillor?
So 119, 4.1b.
B, yep, got it.
Excuse me. For example, endorse a delivery program outlining proposed strategies and whatnot.
Yep.
And budget for the term of local government. I mean, that could be local government. I don't think local government they're getting rid of. But is that a delivery program agreed by the 8 mayors? Is it something that council says to the mayor, this is what we want, or how does that work?
There are a couple of ways of doing it. As you know, we have projects in the pipeline at the moment that the council have nominated and agreed to, but there will be other projects that are in the document I believe there's 36 priorities that have to be addressed in the City Deal document, which has been signed off by the Minister and by the federal government and the state government and local government, and that delivery program will be very much a priority, and that's separate to the projects that are happening independently in the different LGAs. So right now, this particular project is probably needs some sort of direction, and it also needs ongoing liaison between the different levels of government. So again, it's a different sort of arrangement to a ROC.
Mayor, just a couple more.
Yep.
4.1D, and then I note in the recommendation it says to nominate a alternate for yourself.
Yep.
You're not there. But if you look at 4.1D, it says if you're not there, somebody can sit in as an observer and only vote, which means then if there's a concern from this council, that representative can't say anything, can't do anything, can't raise their concerns, can only observe. So I'd have an issue with that.
Well, because it's a mayoral forum, it isn't an observers forum, councillor, and it has been the fashion of this particular process that no major decisions have been made without the consensus of all councillors involved, all the mayors involved. So there's been no decisions, as far as I'm aware, made without everybody having some sort of say in it. And they don't all agree, and there's a general frank discussion around various issues. So we don't miss out, if that's what you're concerned about, because if it is a really important issue on the agenda, we all get to talk about it even though we're not physically there. Does that make sense?
But the way this is worded, and yes, it's all consensus.
Well, that particular paragraph is about ensuring that what we've seen in the last round of local government elections, in the sense that new mayors have come on board and they've had no understanding of how the process is running and have unfortunately started behind the 8 ball. So it was a way of ensuring if a mayor is leaving the position and there might be someone coming behind them, a deputy mayor for instance, or their replacement as such, then that person can attend and get the feeling of how that particular forum works. Then they can move into that position hopefully quite seamlessly, because you don't want somebody going in there and sitting there for the first 6 months going, I don't understand what this is about. You want them to actually understand and be able to hit the deck running.
So, sorry, if you're not able to attend and there's an agenda and whoever it is that council nominates attends, and there's an issue that we've seen as a council on that agenda, our representative needs to sit there, be quiet and say nothing.
Well, as far as I understand, they are able to discuss the issue and they are able to raise the issue, and they can act as a voting representative, it's reading here, in the absence of the mayor, but that would be only if the person has understood what's happening. I mean, it'd be very unfair and unreasonable to send somebody who's totally new to the process to that forum and expect them to vote in full knowledge of what's going on.
And one further, who's the spokesperson of this committee?
At the moment, the chair is the Mayor of Penrith.
No, can I can...
Yes, go ahead.
I can answer that question because there's been some significant discussion about that. At this point in time, the way announcements has been made is that each mayor is entitled, of course, to make their own announcement and speak on the city deal as they choose to. When there have been instances where it has required a single spokesperson, the mayors have discussed who that might be. So in the instance of recent representations we made to the Minister for Planning, our mayor was the spokesperson because they were most relevant to us. It was in relationship to the LUIP. So it depends on the topic, and one of the conversations that the mayors have had in the past, and I think is warranted to bring to the table again, is that the different mayors may have different portfolios of city deal areas of which they speak, but that'll be something for the mayors themselves to determine.
Madam Mayor, can
Yes.
I move the recommendation as per the book and nominate Councillor Haggerty to be the alternate representative?
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Carney. Is there any opposition?
Madam Mayor, I'm a little bit worried about the city deal and the experiences that we've had with that, and I was wondering if we could put in place a mechanism within council so that there is a meeting of all councillors so that we know what is being put forward at the forums. Is that possible? Because the problem that I've got, Madam Mayor, is that you know, all the councillors have been elected to council. It's not fair that one, or in this case, if it's you and Councillor Haggerty, you know, there might be other ideas that are coming from different areas of council that are just not being given the opportunity to have their voices. And we're all people who represent the community. And at this particular time, we feel that the community, or the community feels, that it's not being heard. So is there a mechanism we can put in place so that...
Thank you, Councillor. I'm just checking with the CEO because I want to ensure that you guys are getting that information, and it does go in the CEO report on a regular basis what is taking place. If you have any burning desires or issues, you can always bring it up at the council forum as a resolution, and it could be carried to that forum. There's no guarantee that it will get through that forum, I'm just saying, because you've got to understand the process, and that is the agenda has already been set. It has 36 priorities. The booklet has been published. It has been launched and it's out there in the ether. It's gone through the public exhibition process and it's been circulated to all councillors, and you guys have also had that briefing as well. So the actual aim of this committee right now is to enact those 36 priorities which are in the booklet. I have to say on record, I think the challenge will be, once those 36 items have been completed, all the councils involved in the city deal have further issues they wish to pursue. I'm not too sure whether the federal and state government are actually ready for that, can I say, but at least there's 36 items to pursue at this point. And they are readily available and they are out there in the public arena, councillor. So if you have anything that's a burning issue, I would suggest you bring it through the council process. Other than that, all that information is available. Yes, the CEO wishes to add something.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Further to that as well, there are a number of the initiatives that the Mayor has been speaking about that are required to come to councils for their adoption. So I'll give an example because I believe Mr Stevenson's coming to the next council meeting, the Digital Action Plan, which sets a broad digital action strategy for the whole of the Western City. The intention of that is that the mayors sign off on that in their mayoral role, but then because it's required to be adopted by the councils, it then comes to council for further resolution. So in no way does the capacity of council to resolve something be diminished by this particular mechanism.
So, can I
wait a moment, Councillor Haggerty.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we add a point 5 there, something along the lines of council initiate an appropriate mechanism for raising things to and from the forum?
I believe it is a standing item on the strategic items agenda. Yeah, it is. Yep. So that mechanism already exists.
Sorry, Mayor, if
yes,
I may.
Councillor.
I know we were supposed to have a city deal briefing the other day. That was for some reason cancelled. Would that have been a better time to sort of discuss this as well?
I think it would have been, Councillor, but I'm sure that's going to be rescheduled, so I would suggest that's probably the best time.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion before us. Is there any opposition?
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Blue.
A question there on the financial contributions there. It's saying that the general managers were verbally, there's a verbal confirmation that there will be supported. Right, I mean, it's a verbal confirmation. Would there be any official confirmation down the track?
Yes, we're waiting on that, Councillor. It's a good question and I would have preferred to be coming to you with written confirmation, but we've got a relative level of certainty. If it falls over, then I will come back to Council with that information so you can further look at your decision making.
Thank you for that. And on the second there, through you, Madam Mayor,
yes.
I do agree with Councillor Rhodes that us as councillors and representative of our community should be well informed with the city deal, and they're nominating Councillor Haggerty. I don't have an issue with that. But again, if with your indulgence, that I would like to see that any of Liverpool Council is able to attend. So maybe we can add to that.
I'm sorry, Councillor, I'm not trying to stop you, but it's not our forum. That is a rule that the forum has actually made. We can't impose, as the group, they've actually adopted that, not us. So if we ended up sending, just for the sake of the argument, 5 councillors along, that would be inappropriate for that forum.
So you're saying, Madam Mayor, that it's law within that is not for councillors not to attend or unable to attend, is what you're saying?
Well, councillors are not invited to attend, to be frank. It's a mayoral...
Not invited, so
it's a,
another word.
At the risk of... And I'm
so
trying...
can we be invited, Madam Mayor?
I'm trying to be as complimentary as possible here. This was not something that I personally did. This is something that has been designed, again, by the federal government and the state government. They have organised this process, and the mayoral process is something that's ingrained in this particular forum, and if councillors want to go along, well, that's their business, but I have to say to you, and I'm being honest, you are not invited to go along. It is actually a mayoral forum, and the actual adoption of another person as an observer was something that they agreed to. So it's unfortunate, but the information is forthcoming. You do get all the information from the forum, and there are no secrets around the matters, and we are very happy for everybody to know what's happening, and I'm personally very happy to take on board anything anybody wishes to say. So that's where we're at with that, Councillor.
So, Madam Mayor, can I just quickly clarify something?
Yes.
Just going back to the previous concerns around 4.1 C and D, my reading of D is that where the mayor is in attendance and the alternate also attends, that is when the alternate is an observer. However, when they're there in the absence of the mayor, they have voting and discussion rights in that forum. Is that?
Yes, that's right.
Is that what? Okay.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 127.
Madam Mayor, can I be recorded as not voting for that,
Yes,
please?
certainly. Next item's on page 120.
And sorry, Madam Mayor, if I can be recorded too, that I was not voting for that.
That's fine. Next item's on page 127.
Can I ask some questions, then move a motion, which
Yes,
I'm sure
certainly,
will get
Councillor.
unanimous support? Thanks, Mayor. Through you, CEO, to the whoever needs to. On page 130.3. Says consultation with council staff has been limited because of time constraints imposed by the council resolution. It's my understanding this was moved 8 weeks ago. When we consult with, for example, residents, it's put on a Liverpool Listens quite quickly. Why is there a constraint with 8 weeks to consult with staff members, given that we have technology?
There are a few challenges, Councillor. Firstly, we wanted to seek some legal advice on this because that may have been a question that I was asked. Secondly, we needed to write a policy itself. And thirdly, because of the requirements of the Local Government Act in terms of consultation, I needed to get it to the JCC. They all have timing issues. I couldn't consult with staff until I had gone to the JCC. That's my requirement under the Local Government Act. So that's been part of the challenge there.
And JCC was consulted on the Thursday prior to motions closing for the book, which is probably about 6 weeks. So you needed the 6 week lead up to be able to consult with JCC. Is that right? Just so I know for future. It takes a while to... It takes
a while both to prepare the papers and get them onto the agenda. It's not dissimilar to council meetings.
That's
so
right,
yes.
but the consultation with the JCC took place, I think, a week before or a few days before your reports closed. So there was a 6 week lead up to consult with them. I'm just trying to understand.
I need to get a formal response from JCC at the JCC meeting.
Which was 2 weeks before this meeting. Yep, okay. Point C on page 31, given the council resolved to allow you to implement a policy, it says the council resolution did not address issues such as protecting confidentiality in regard to those things there. Isn't that part of a policy?
Well,
That we
correct,
asked
and
for?
we've been looking at those issues as part of the policy development.
So why is that in there then, that we didn't ask for it if we asked for a policy?
Councillor, I think it's drawing attention to the fact that those are issues that need to be addressed for in the policy.
In relation to the USU, we had a presentation, thank you, for the other day in relation to that. I did my own consultation with the USU, given that I put this initially to council. I've read their submission, which I won't go into because I don't think it's public, but in discussion with this union delegate representative high up there, they actually stated to me that didn't have an issue with the recording of all phone calls. Is that what you understood from them?
No, that is not what I understood from them. However, as we discussed earlier, I will be meeting with the USU tomorrow morning, and I'm happy to seek clarification from them.
All right, and they said that I could actually use this in part of that. They actually said they were quite happy as long as all phone calls were recorded and we didn't look at certain departments. But my understanding from the briefing, and correct me if I'm wrong at any time, was that they were totally against this policy. But my reading and talking to them, in fact, they actually said that they worked with, and I can't go to it because I couldn't find it and it hasn't been sent to me. They actually said they'd be more than happy to introduce a policy if they had more time, similar to what they did in Campbelltown. So I was quite surprised with what we were presented compared to what the union is actually saying. I just make that as a comment.
I will take that as an observation, councillor.
Thank you. In relation to the other submission that was received, I won't mention anything, but a question to yourself, and you can pass it on to the relevant officer if you choose. If that was a submission that came through from a resident in relation to something we asked for consultation on, there were a lot of things in that email. Would we have responded to that person saying, maybe you're a little bit out of line, maybe something's not right here? I'm just going off previous responses that I've seen.
Mr. White and I had a conversation about how we may respond to that this afternoon, because yes, I don't disagree with you, councillor.
Sorry, so is that your role or is that somebody else's role to do that based on examples from, and I'm not saying you shouldn't.
I'm trying to remember who was the addressee for that. Who did it come to, Mr. White?
I think one of our HR staff.
Okay, all right. Look, I think it's probably my role, and I'm certainly happy to take that on.
All right, based on that, is there anything that's illegal with the initial resolution that was put forward, or recommendation that was put forward, or motion from myself?
No, we sought legal advice. There's no illegality to it. There's some practical matters which we drew your attention to in relation to PIDs, but they can be managed, I'm sure.
All right, can I move a motion, Mayor?
Yes, councillor, what's your motion?
Thanks. That council defer this item until further discussions are held with the relevant stakeholders, to a policy be presented to council in the 2nd February meeting. Is that?
That's perfectly achievable, councillor.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Madam CEO, for council's consideration. And 3, it is believed that Campbelltown, and I will say believed because I haven't seen it, that Campbelltown Council has a policy similar to what Liverpool is trying to achieve. And I will say believe because I haven't seen it.
Madam Mayor, if I could just make a comment.
Yes, certainly, councillor.
Just with the Campbelltown Council, is it only for their call centre, or other staff's phone calls also recorded and
my understanding, and I couldn't find it on their website when I made inquiries, was because it's not a policy that they want advertised. This is my understanding only, that it is a business-wide policy that the USU actually had a big role in drawing up. So it was outside the call centre as well. My understanding.
So, Councillor, you're saying for all staff?
So it would be senior staff, of course, would be included in that. Through the chair, if I may, I just want to clarify, the senior staff here, their mobile phones, are they using private mobile phones, council mobile phones?
It's a bit of a combination. There's no requirement to use a council phone. You can use your own phone if you choose to. Yep.
Okay, just in light of this, is something that I'd like to bring to my fellow councillors' attention, if I may, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I've heard on the streets of Liverpool that there is a couple of local architects bragging about their relationship with senior staff here at Liverpool, adding a surcharge to billing because...
Hold on.
Point of order.
Yes, Councillor, what's your point of order?
Just for Councillor Ayad's sake, maybe that's a discussion we might have in closed session.
I think that's a very wise move. Councillor, for your own protection, I would suggest this...
I'm not going to mention any names, Madam Mayor.
No, but it's still, you are still putting a sort of a detrimental sort of leaning to senior staff in the way you're choosing your words. If you wish to discuss this, I would suggest that CEO3 go into closed session.
I would second that, Madam
Thank
Mayor.
you, Councillor Balut.
I can choose more delicate words, Madam.
All right, well, let's see how you go.
Can I have a minute just to put my words together?
Yep, sure.
Mayor, can I speak for my motion while councillors thinking?
Yes, certainly, go ahead.
In relation to this, I take on board comments, whether I agree with some in there, whether we got it right, wrong, whatever it may be. This is about training and development and nothing else. I understand that some people are weary that it could be because we want to spy and do all these other things. Absolutely not. Every organisation has a program in place. We should be helping every staff member that we can do their best for the ratepayer that actually pays everyone's wage that's here, plus, okay, all the grants and everything else that we get. And we should be, as an elected body, yes, Madam CEO, you have a job to do as the CEO. Councillors also have a job to do as elected by the representative, and that's to ensure that we provide them the best that we can. And in turn, our staff will develop, will grow, and hopefully move on to bigger and brighter things, either within the organisation or outside. In relation to some of the comments that I've just heard there, and I hope we don't hear them, I don't want to see this go through to staff's mobile phones. I don't want, whether it's their personal or the council one. This is just about people calling in and ensuring that we can help our staff give our residents the best possible service. Again, similar to the Hoxton Park thing, can we just focus on this learning and development? And if people have issues with anything else, they can put it on the agenda or go in a closed session and not move away from what this motion is trying to do.
Just another point of order. Can we fix up point 3? That we need an action there. So notes or either notes, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for speaking, Councillor Chitty. Councillor Ayad, have you got...
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to thank Councillor Hachidi for clarifying that further, because I was looking at it from a broader perspective, and I felt that there was a little bit of a double standard. But now with those objectives set out, I'm happy. I'm even happy to second this motion that's before us if it hasn't.
So,
it's already been seconded. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Caliander seconded it. Okay.
So we're going to closed session because I want to hear more about this.
We can have a conversation later, Nathan.
Okay.
Councillor Haggerty, pardon me.
Thank you for seconding my suggestion, Councillor Balut, but it seems we're moving on. So we have the motion as moved by Councillor Chitty and seconded by Councillor Caliander. Is there any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? I want my name noted against it, please.
Yes, record me too. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
As voting against.
And the motion is carried. The next item is on page 134.
I note, Madam Mayor, that there's some urgency about this, but I also note that Councillor Mazar Hadid is not here, and I think Councillor Mazar Hadid would make an excellent person for this position, considering...
Well, Councillor, you can actually move him as the delegate if you so choose, and with a seconder, and we could call for nominations for, generally speaking, and in his absence, I'm sure we can vote without him being here, so...
Madam Mayor, are we going to vote for an alternate at all for this? No, it doesn't outline that here, but...
No, it's just by the looks of it a delegate, no alternate councillor. So
I'd like to nominate
hold on,
Councillor...
let's move...
Oh, sorry.
Let's move the recommendation first. So somebody like to move the recommendation?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I'll put it. Those in favour, those against. Declare it carried. Now we have a nominations. Yes, councillor.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Charisma Caliander of the South Ward.
South Ward was very formal. Okay. And also, Councillor Rhodes, you have a nomination?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor Mazar Hadid because of his excellent experience in these sorts of things.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, well, any other nominations? Okay, I'll put the first one, Councillor Caliander. Please raise your hand. 5. That's 5. Okay, and those... Now I'll just take the second one. Those in favour of Councillor Mazar Hadid. That's 5. I will actually give the nomination to Councillor Caliander.
Sorry, Mayor.
My vote.
Can I just seek clarification on something?
Yep. Sure.
When it comes to voting on things like that, is it then out of a hat, or does the Mayor have a casting vote in relation to that?
I don't know. I get the casting vote. It's a resolution. I just got advice, so I am deeming Councillor Caliander successful. The next, thank you. The next item's on page... Yeah, she's not automatic. I mean, she's got to fight off other folk. Yeah, she's not automatically on. Okay, the next item's on page 164. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Art. Is there any opposition?
Madam Mayor, I wonder whether we can have a number 2 for this, where we hold a council briefing meeting with councillors and go through all the sections one by one whilst this is on exhibition. That is a huge amount of things that we're requiring to actually get a grip hold of. And this is our big chance to make changes. So I think it needs more than a little bit of a consideration than us just putting up our hand and voting here.
Happy to take that on board.
Yes, Councillor, thank you. We'll just amend, I'd say what you should do is amend point 1 and say, and that it'll be a briefing arranged for councillors during the exhibition period.
And it might have to be a number of briefings. I don't want this glossed over. I want it to be thorough and for all councillors.
We hear you, Councillor.
Thank you.
All right, and it's been adopted by Councillor Chitty and Councillor Ard. Are you happy with that as well? A briefing for councillors. Yep, thank you. Is there any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour?
What's the question?
Those against? I'm going to say it's unanimous. What's your question? It's a bit late. We moved on.
Yeah, the question was, if we're having another briefing, why do we also say if no submissions are received, council delegates to the CEO the finalisation?
And I had another alteration which said bring it back to council. So it would be receives a further report and outcomes of the exhibition and bring it back to council. I tried.
Yeah. Well, it has to be exhibited, so you're going to get a briefing and council can bring back, it'll be brought back to council.
You have my assurance I will bring it back to council.
So is there any opposition to that? Because you all have to have your names recorded. So I'll say unanimous for that. The next item's on page 170.
Move that.
Move that. Second it.
Thank you. Councillor Hadchiti and Councillor Rhodes. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Next item's on page 174.
Move that way, Mayor.
I'll second.
I just have a small amendment.
Hold on a moment. Councillor Chitty and Councillor Ayard. What is your amendment, Councillor?
Number 5 endorses in principle the proposed public benefit contributions of the planning agreement to be negotiated further, comma, including but not limited to.
That's everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Councillor Chitty and Councillor Allen?
And in fact,
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. That's fine. Thank you. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried. Now, Councillor Sheldon, are you opposing?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Everybody's agreeing except Councillor Sheldon for the minutes. Thank you. It's a planning matter. The next item's on page 180.
I have some questions, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Rhodes.
I'm a little bit confused as to what is the actual situation here. Can you tell me what would happen if council doesn't approve this VPA? Does it legally go back to court or?
We're on 180.
Madam Mayor, are we on 180?
We're on 180.
Whoops, wrong one. Sorry.
Oh, I've got a question on 180, Mayor.
Councillor Chitty, what is your 180?
On page 181, we talk about our white ribbon accredited workplace. Now,
Yes, Councillor, we did predict someone may ask this question.
Thank you.
The actions that we committed to through the White Ribbon accreditation will remain in place. I've committed to that to the staff. How we brand those is a matter for internal discussion at present.
So that organisation no longer exists? Or
That's correct, that organisation
so
no
can we
longer
not,
exists.
and I take on board, not mention them, given that, just in the future, I mean, if we're moving away from them?
No, I take that on board. It was simply an attempt to say what items we brought to the organisation through that process.
And is there anything we paid for with them that we didn't receive? Are we part of any?
I'll have to take that on notice, but I don't think so. I don't think we had any financial commitments other than those that were projects embedded in our own organisation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Would someone like to move it?
Move that way, thank you.
Thank you,
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Sheldon. Seconded, Councillor Chitty. I'm going to put it. Those in favour, those against, carried. Next item's on page 183.
I have an amendment.
Yes, Councillor.
Just the quorum.
Yep.
I think, what have we, can we just leave it as it is? So 1 councillor, 5 attendees.
Mm-hmm. You're moving that as the amendment to the reference?
Can I foreshadow a motion, Mayor?
Yes, hold on. Councillor, and do you have a seconder, Councillor Haggerty? Thank you.
I will second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cunnip. All right. Without going into your foreshadowed motion, Councillor, can you give you wish
Just
to speak against?
I'll speak against Councillor Haggerty's, and there's not really much there, but I think it's important if council staff and councillors, especially the staff, are going to take time out, put together a presentation and whatnot, and we know that we're not going to have a decent audience to actually present to. These meetings shouldn't take place and staff should be able to go home to their families. From 5 to 10, to ask for 10 people who are really committed to or interested in their local area, I don't think that's a big ask. It should go from the 5 to the 10. A lot of time, a lot of effort is put into these things, and if people don't show up, well, then we shouldn't be holding them.
Thank you. Half. Okay, Councillor Haggerty, wish to speak to your motion?
Can I just...
Hold on, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Haggerty, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yeah, look, this has been a very, in my opinion, a very successful initiative that we've put in place. It has evolved over time, and I think it's found a nice sweet spot. We've collapsed some into others. We've changed the time and frequency of others. My concern is that, there may be occasion where it may fall during school holidays or at a certain time of the year where you get, you mainly get 6 or 7. I know with my one there's been, I think, once or twice where it's only had a handful of people, but there's been times where hundreds have turned up. So it just depends on what's on the agenda and sort of what time of the year it falls, and I'm just concerned that you might get a bad run of a couple meetings and then the whole thing gets dissolved, and I don't think that's fair to the community.
Thank you. Any speakers against? Councillor Rhodes, you have the floor.
Yes, I'd like to support Councillor Haggerty in his comments there. Thank you very much. Mainly because of 3.2, where Council has established the Liverpool District Forums as a means to develop and strengthen strong community bonds by ensuring ongoing dialogue between Council and the community about matters affecting the local communities, etc., etc. The reason why we've created these district forums is all for those purposes. And I agree with Councillor Haggerty about this, that it would be sending the wrong message out there to the community at a time when they feel that their voice is not being heard, to turn around and say, listen, if you don't get 10 of your asses in here, we're going to knock those...
Watch the language.
If you don't get 10 of the people in here, you're not going to have a meeting. I just think it's the wrong message to be sending out to our constituents.
Okay, we've had 2 speakers for. Do we have any speakers against? All right, I'm going to put the motion first as moved by Councillor Haggerty, and seconded by Councillor Cunliffe. Those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried. As voting against it? Yes, Councillor, you can. Next item's on page 195.
Madam Mayor, I'll move this one.
Okay.
Seconded. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, before you put it to a vote, can I just make a comment on this? I just would like to commend council staff on moving along Al Faisal College's DA. Representatives from the school came and met with the Deputy CEO and Director Eddie Jackson, Director of City Community and Culture, and it was a very progressive meeting, and the school is very, very happy, and they've sent out the letters to the 400 students that were on their waiting list, and now all those kids know that where they'll be starting their schooling year next year, and a lot of families are moving to the area because their children have now been accepted to the school, and a lot of parents were really pleased because they actually had older kids already at the school and now their siblings could follow through to the same school. So I'd like to commend the directors involved in the planning department on that. Thank you for the great work.
Thank you. Any opposition to the...
Can I ask a question, Mayor, based on the comments that we just heard?
Yes, certainly.
What is the process to get a DA moved along?
Oh, so this, under these circumstances...
Sorry, it was a question.
It's a question to the staff member, Councillor.
I just heard that there's a process to get a DA moved along. Can I be advised what that process is in case I need to help someone?
You need to help somebody?
Thanks.
That's...
Enjoy that one, Mr Moore.
Through the CEO. There's no specific process, but there were some issues that were not understood, I think you could say, between the staff assessing the application and the proponent. There was some missing information. Through the meeting, as happens just about every day, often in fact each day, an open dialogue led to a good level of understanding of what the issues were, the information flowed, and we were able to make a decision.
Okay, is there any opposition? I'm going to put it this... Yes, Councillor Rhodes. You have opposition?
No, there's a couple of questions. Are we doing Commo 3?
We're doing 195, Commo 3, yes.
I liked it, but can we have... Is this going to be going up onto the website so that people can actually see all the different funding opportunities?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor.
Can we include links to the external funding organisations on the website?
Yes, we can. We can include links. We just need to put a disclaimer to say that we're just making a link towards them. We can't be held responsible for any of their information.
And...
I think some of them have already got links.
They have, yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to put it, those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 205.
I'll move that we defer for further discussions, Mayor.
I have an alternative motion.
Councillor, would you like to debate the deferral using your foreshadowed...
Mayor, I'll withdraw moving.
Okay, Councillor...
I'll second that, Madam.
Okay, Councillor...
Hopefully it's coming up. Yep, basically that we endorse the framework, but we don't get rid of any of the strategies yet, and we just sort of work through them piecemeal. So
Happy to second that, Mayor.
Yep.
Okay. Is there any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 236.
Move that way.
Second, Madam
Who was
Mayor.
that?
That was me.
Oh,
Yeah, I've got
I
range.
didn't recognise your voice,
Yeah.
Councillor. Sorry. Okay, Councillor Haggerty, seconded.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's on page 245.
Move that way.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes, seconded.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Next item's a committee report.
Madam Mayor, can I move that the committees be moved as a whole?
Yeah.
Can we pull traffic out?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, except for traffic.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded. Who seconded that? Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Any opposition? I'll
Sorry,
put.
does that include the late committee?
Yeah, traffic. Yeah, traffic's been pulled.
Sorry then.
Traffic's out.
Traffic's out.
The strategic street panels there, wasn't it?
I'm going to put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried.
No,
The
it's not there.
community and safety and no, not that one. Sorry. Traffic's not there. Oh, it's in the addendum.
It's in the addendum.
Oh, sorry. So bear with me. These addendums are fun. Addendum. Page 165 in your addendum document. 65. Okay, we're there. Right. Councillor Haggerty, you called for this to be pulled?
I did. Just in regards to I've lost my place, the roundabout on New Warra Road. This seems a strange one, and it obviously related to EGRO 04 as well. If I'm reading this correctly, essentially we're making, I guess we're doing some sort of backward engineering in order to satisfy a local planning decision, despite the strategic view of what needs to happen with that road. And it's costing a significant amount of money, ratepayers' money. That's despite the fact that the local planning panel said no, and I guess we're crossing over here into EGRO 04, but I just don't think that's... I thought, our job here is to be strategic and make strategic decisions. This is not what's happening.
Can I suggest we do EGRO 04 then come back to this?
Sorry, I was coughing. What were you saying, Councillor?
Can I suggest we do EGRO 04 and then do this item?
Yep.
Thanks.
Are you happy for that to be deferred until that item? Okay, thank you.
Well, I have some questions then to start us off with EGRO 04.
No, we're just going to go through the agenda and we'll come back to EGRO 04. Okay, just hold your horses. Okay, next item is questions with notice, which is on page 19. Sorry, 288, I apologise. Where'd the 19 come from? Okay, and in the name of Councillor Hull. Tab number 19, thank you. It's covered up by my phone. Okay, 288, Councillor Hull. Are you happy with that?
Mayor. I must admit I'm not happy with...
Any of it?
The answers are fine. I'm not happy with the result because obviously it's not addressing the issue. And when we have the next community safety meeting, I will raise the issue there with the police present, and I think they're the ones that need to come in on this because obviously over the last 10 years we just haven't solved the problem. But I do have a question. To the CEO, through the Mayor.
Yep.
Do we still have the security people on the Saturday and the Sunday morning?
Yes, we do. Mr. Moore, can you expand on this because we've been doing some more work in this area as well?
Certainly through the CEO. Yes, we do. We do have a security company engaged every weekend. They now work closely with our compliance staff. There's been a bit of a change to the way in which they patrol the area, and it seems as though it's had a good effect because we haven't had complaints for the last couple of months, I think it is. You might have been hearing something differently, but people haven't been complaining formally at least. So their patrols of the area are a little more intermittent, you could say, rather than sort of always appearing at lunchtime where people are getting used to that. So that seems to have had an effect. We've also got a much closer working relationship now with the local area command. In fact, we've been given a secret mobile number which we can use to contact the duty officer. I'd love to share it with you, but it's a secret. And
I move that we send a letter to all residents in Chipping Norton with that number on it.
We haven't had to use the bat phone yet, but if we've got an escalation process now, so I think things are. It appears that slight, subtle change to how we're managing it is working, and we've definitely got a good contact with the police.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I know this has been a ongoing issue that predates me. Have we ever done a mail out to residents within earshot directing them to call the police if they have noise complaints?
We did, I believe, about a year ago, directing them. I'm happy to redo it again. Councillor Hull and I have shared this particular issue for many, many years now, but we certainly have within the recent past. Yep.
Why don't we produce fridge magnets? You put fridge magnets on the fridge. If you get a letter, you put it in the bin. If you get a fridge magnet, you put it on the fridge and it's always there.
I think you're requesting a communications campaign, Councillor.
I think at the moment we've had a very professional response, Councillor Haggerty. Thank you. So, Councillor Hull, I think things are moving along and we have a more direct, quote, bat phone in action. Okay, the next item is Councillor Haggerty on page 290.
Thank you, staff, for this excellent response. This answers my question. I guess I was concerned that in regards to this issue, the language from the state government has started to change. In January, it was we will construct a multi-storey car park will be completed by mid-2020. And if you look at recent language, that has now changed to there will be additional car parks by about mid-2020. So the language is already shifting on this. And what I don't want to happen is, and I'm sure the state government would never ever do this, would be to point the finger at Liverpool Council for some planning failure or some slowing down the process. So as you can see, well, if I'm reading this correctly, there is no land within a reasonable vicinity of the station to provide for car parking, and that depending on the way they go through the planning assessment, we may or may not. So happy with the answers there, and I think we should expect this question on a regular basis from myself. And yeah.
And Councillor, can I reassure you we have made regular representations on this matter too.
Sorry, Mayor, just in relation to parking in general,
Yep.
are we able to, if the CEO can, that we're talking about parking, how's the Casula Powerhouse parking going? That's council-owned land.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask Mr Stevenson to go to a microphone because he's been doing the negotiations on my behalf.
So we've been talking regularly with Transport for New South Wales. The question they have is around the operating hours of the car park. Council's got concerns about having it open too late at night with the security of CPAC. And so we're just negotiating around that. But basically they are keen to proceed.
So they're ready to go, everything, all we're waiting on really on the council-owned land is council's agreeance. Is that correct?
We're waiting on a formal proposal from Transport for New South Wales at the moment.
Thank you.
We're basically in the process of agreement, but as I believe I've said before, councillors, I'm not prepared to have Transport for New South Wales clip my ticket. It needs to be at no cost to council.
Sorry, just in relation to that, all I'm understanding though, it's only the time frames. It's not a matter of money. It's when the car park is open.
But depending on the hours of operation, it will be whether they need to put in CCTV or a static guard. So we're just negotiating out those final pieces.
Just for my knowledge, has any agreement been proposed at any stage between one or either party?
Yes, councillors. Prior to the state election, I signed an MOU which we had negotiated with Transport for New South Wales. At that point in time, Transport for New South Wales chose not to execute that particular MOU, and since then we have gone back into negotiation.
Thank you, councillors. Okay.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, just through
Yes,
you. Do you mind telling us, CEO, why they've chosen not to execute that MOU?
My understanding was that they were concerned about the costs of delivering that infrastructure. At that point in time as well, as you'll know, one of the reasons that we're keen to see this in, apart from obviously the greater benefit to the community, is also to get the underpass opened, so we've got greater access. At that point in time, they said they were unable to fulfil that. We're still in negotiations with them about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Chitty. Thank you. Next item's in your name as well, parking meters. This might be the opportune moment to bring up the issue you wished to raise earlier.
Mentioned the issue, and I don't want to harp on it, and the CEO has taken on board the comments and has, from what I understand, stated that another 30 days of education.
Okay, thank you. On the next item is your name as well, 294. Fine. Next. No, I did basketball. Yes, basketball's done. Next item's 295. Now we're moving on to Councillor Balut. That was you.
Excuse me. Yes, Madam Mayor. Thanks for that response there, CEO. Just a little bit of a concern there, saying on the last paragraph, the decision that was taken, my voting right away, is based on an advice that saying I will be overseas and will be attending the conference after midday. Now, I'd like to know where that advice come from, firstly.
I was provided that advice by my staff. It was incorrect advice, and I do apologise.
Thank you for that. Highly taken on board, CEO, but would you mind telling us where that advice come from? Which staff member?
Councillor, unfortunately, you can't be naming staff. It's not. It's to do with the process of operational matters versus policy, and if you wanted to discuss that person, you have to go into closed session.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I do know, Madam Mayor, it's via email and other forms that every staff member that I have communicated with, without mentioning names, were very well aware of my itinerary. They have arranged my itinerary, and they very well informed of my arrival. As a matter of fact, a day or two prior to me jumping on board, I've received a text message and an email with a link to confirm my flights, which is I did. So every staff that I have communicated with were very well aware of my flights, departure and arrival and time.
Councillor, all I can do is firstly give you my unreserved apology again, but also assure you it was a purely innocent mistake based on incorrect information about what time the vote was occurring, not incorrect information about your itinerary.
Thank you. Taken on board.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, Councillor.
Was there a formal motion of council that ever listed who the delegates for the conference was?
Not by name, no, Councillor.
Sorry, in relation to that, and I was going to stay out of this because it's not my fault. Yes, there was, Councillor.
Absolutely.
There was a resolution passed by council, and I said I was going to stay out of this one, but given that you've said that and we've received that response, and the resolution passed by council CEO 01 on the 26th, meeting held on the 29th of May 2019. Point 2, council nominates the mayor and councillors except Councillor Hadid as their voting delegates for the conference, noting that, and if you just let me finish for a sec, noting that Councillor Hadid has a vote as he is a director of the association. Should a councillor not be able to attend, then Councillor Hadid becomes the 10th voting delegate to the conference. So from my understanding of that, is first option then should have probably went to Councillor Hadid.
All right, so let me clarify my question because I think you understood my question. We, just from my understanding, we have 9 delegates and 10 councillors.
No, sorry, we had 9 delegates and 11 councillors. However, Councillor Hadid was able to gain a vote by nature of being on the local government conference committee.
He was a director.
And we might, Vish is gone, but I just wanted clarification. You can't divide 10 into 9 as a whole number.
Well, can I just stop this in its tracks and just say, councillors, unfortunately, the situation was changed. Councillor Hadid and I discussed it. I was of the opinion that we had 10 votes, as most of us thought. But the reality is in previous conferences, not the full complement of councillors have turned up, so it's never been tested. Subsequently, we lost a vote down to 9 for voting for the actual board when the rural and the city association merged. And we weren't the only council. Penrith also went through the same process. So they have 9 votes for the board and 10 votes on the floor of the conference. I think the thing is that I have to say in honesty, I was not aware of that the night that this went through. And I believe it may have been in our board papers. I have to say I did not read it. And subsequently an innocent error was made, and unfortunately or fortunately we now all know that we only have 9 votes at a future conference. And my apologies as well, Councillor.
Accepted, Madam Mayor. On that note, Councillor Haggerty offered to give us a vote at next year's election.
There you go.
On the record.
Sorry,
Okay.
point of order.
No,
It's not
no,
up to
no.
Councillor
That's a
Haggerty.
decision of council.
That's enough.
And it will definitely be a matter for council to determine. I will sit in this
And there will
room
be
till
9 votes.
You've got to vote for that, Madam Mayor.
9 votes. Okay, councillors, enough. Moving on. The next item is there's EGRO 04 and the Traffic Committee item on page 165. You wish to discuss these together?
EGRO 04, Mayor, I'll move that we receive and note, and I take it by receiving and noting, we're not endorsing that. Is that my
Sorry, say
understanding?
that again. Receive and note.
The report.
Oh, okay.
Now, do I take that as a council, I'm talking against it by receiving and noting, staff?
Yes, you are.
Council does not endorse a roundabout being built on Nuwara Road with the intersection of Marshall Parade.
Okay.
Marshall.
I'll second that.
Okay. Does not endorse. Okay. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Chitty and seconded by Councillor Rhodes. Do you wish to speak to your motion?
Mayor, just quickly, I will, and being part of this since 2016 with the local residents, and I'm going to pull them out for a sec because obviously we do get submissions in relation to developments. Yes, the development is permissible in that zone, but obviously the issue is the traffic. My concern here is sticking a roundabout on Nuwara Road in a unsafe location. Yes, roundabouts probably supposed to make things safe and slow things down, but Nuwara Road is going to be the throughfare for the intermodal. We're going to have B doubles going through. You can give me as many reports as you want with as many diagrams as you want that says this is the turning circle and this is how it will work. And I note in some of those diagrams the semi or the B double goes straight over the roundabout. On a road like that, if it was a set of traffic lights, one would probably reconsider. But you're going to have traffic lights on Nuwara, you're going to have B doubles, but most importantly, you're going to have mothers and fathers with children, plus the local residents currently, trying to get out of that intersection, probably with a B double going down that road, and you know, one life is too many lives. Roundabout, no. Other measures, happy to consider.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move around a second. Is there anybody speaking against this motion? Okay, given there's nobody speaking against it, I'm going to put it. Those in favour of the motion just put. Those against? It's unanimous for the typist. So the next item then is the Traffic Committee.
I'll move that with the exception of the item relating to the roundabout in Nuwara Road.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried. Councillor Chitty, I'm conscious that question 07 you haven't been dealt with as yet, which is on...
It's for next month.
It's for next month? Okay.
I just do want to say something, and yes, we'll get it next month. But just so, because I know sometimes when I put things on, they just say, well, doesn't this guy just shut up and go away? Yeah, and I just heard it from someone. In relation to the second part of the question, for your information, CEO, which is the tender process in relation to that, just so you don't think I've put it on there for the fun of it, I did ask this of a staffer. I didn't receive a response, hence I put it on the business paper, and something I'll do moving forward.
I'm happy for it to be on the public record.
No, I just to say why it's there, because I didn't receive a response.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. The next item is presentation by councillors. Do we have any presentations? Nope. Okay, next item is...
Sorry, Madam
Yes.
Mayor, I'd like to maybe have a word about the sister city.
Yes, certainly.
Rochella. I must say, what a great Italian hospitality that we received, Madam Mayor. I'm sure people would agree, with an open arm and warm hearts. It's a great visit, and our Calabrian community in Liverpool is great and have served the area extremely well. I would, on the record, like to thank the Mayor of Rochella and the CEO and all the councillors that have done their absolute best to make us welcome and, without a doubt, feel at home. What I've noticed that that they were really sincere about our sister city communication, and basically I've spoken to a couple of the guys in there, and they were absolutely grateful. I believe they will be here in November next year, if I'm correct, Mayor. So on that note, I would hope that if they do make it, and when they do make it, they were able to welcome them in the same manner as they have done, which is extremely well. And I thank them on the record.
Thank you, Councillor, for that.
Sorry, Mayor,
Yes.
I did say no, I didn't have presentation before, but that's when we speak about Liverpool having hospitality, let's talk about the Local Government New South Wales Conference. We did an exceptional job. There's been a few, in my few short years as a councillor, I can count that as one of my proudest moments when we were having the event at CPAC, and it was professionally run, you know, as good as anywhere you'll get, certainly in this country, if not the world. Everyone was remarking on both the venue and the way we executed the event, and that continued through to the Tuesday and the Wednesday. And we've done our city very, very proud, and I'm sure we've got a pretty significant economic boost from it. And we've also proven that we can host big events, and you know, I'm sure.
CBD.
And we're the third CBD, if you haven't heard. 4 times. That's 80 cents. 80 cents. Yep. But in all seriousness, you know, we came across looking as grown-ups. You know, we're very professional. We're a very serious city, and well done to all the staff, and also to Councillor Hadid, who had played a very big part in securing that for us.
Yes, he did. I echo Councillor Ballout's sentiments, and I also thank Councillor Haggerty for his comments, because I also agree with that as well. I think we've done ourselves proud in both elements. Any other presentation?
No, just quickly, Mayor, will you be putting up a formal as per in relation to Rochella?
Yes,
Thanks.
it's already been done.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is fast charging stations. Councillor Haggerty.
Yes. So I think basically explained here why I think this is a good idea. If you are so inclined to drive an electric vehicle and you're making a significant journey down south and you're coming through Sydney or leaving from Sydney, I think that at the current, the nearest fast charging station's at Homebush, although I did see a media report today that they're putting one at Heathcote. I guess my ideas are, people catch on to my good ideas all the time. But in all seriousness, Liverpool has traditionally been, that sort of stopping off spot before before you head for your trip down south. Electric vehicles are, becoming more and more the norm. It's an emerging market. Now, my intention, just to be clear, my intention here is that this is at no significant capital cost to council. The idea is that council don't do this, that council basically act as a broker and with the fast charging providers and suitable spots. So whether that's a service station with a row of restaurants and cafes or somewhere else, we marry them up and get a few here, because that means people making significant journeys down south, they'll stop into Liverpool for lunch and a drink or two, and that can only be a good thing.
Can I clarify something, Mayor?
Yes, Councillor.
No significant cost to council. Is it no cost to council or no significant cost to council?
Well, it's already cost council by someone working on this report, so I guess
Sorry,
no significant capital cost, I think, is a way of.
So no land for free, no electricity charge if someone plugs in. That's what you're saying when you say no cost to council?
No significant capital cost, because a member of council staff is now going to often execute this report. That's going to cost council. It's already cost council because someone's had to prepare this report. So I understand what you're saying, and yeah, we need to. If you're not comfortable that council tip in millions of dollars, which I'm not intending, that's why I'm putting at no significant capital cost. So we can add that to the motion.
So council act as a broker.
Thank you. And just for Councillor Haggerty's information, you can charge your car at Woolies at Preston, so it's
not a fast charging station.
Not a great idea.
Also at Westfield, Liverpool.
It's not a fast charging station.
Yeah, they're slower. They actually charge cars slower. This is a fast.
No doubt we need one.
Yeah. Okay, have we got a seconder?
I will second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? I'll do it again. Those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried. Next item is wood encouragement policy, also in the name of Councillor Haggerty.
Certainly been working hard this month, Madam Mayor.
Wouldn't you know it?
Yeah. Look, I take on board that there was some, people weren't on board last time, so I've brought it back in a new and improved, what I hope is a new and improved form. Essentially, we provide a bit of information for councillors before we move forward. I note that since the last time I put up a similar motion that there is a community housing development going on down in Campbelltown that's using this stuff. So essentially it's, I think it's called laminated timber, so it's very strong, reinforced, safe, but it's also, in a number of measures, it's a superior building technology. I'm not mandating that we use it everywhere. I'm just saying, let's get some information on it. Once we've got some information on it, where appropriate, we seek that out as a potential building material.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Can I make a suggestion to Councillor Haggerty, given this is his second go at this? I'd hate to see it go down again. In relation to point 2, following the briefing, so pretty much you're doing what the RMS is doing, so briefing us and then doing a policy, but you've already made up your mind, if I'm reading it correctly. Can we leave out or change the wording on point 2? So if during that briefing the sediments aren't there to move forward with this, staff here still need to do it, whether they like it or not, maybe reword following the briefing?
Oh, sure.
Thanks, Councillor.
Yeah. Look, happy to take suggestions on in regards to that wording.
Sense the room in the briefing session and determine whether a policy is required.
No, we have to make a formal decision.
Probably the first resolution that ever seeks out the vibe. Let's see if we can do a little bit better here.
Madam Mayor, I just have a question regarding.
Yes, Councillor.
If Councillor Haggerty can clarify, I just want you to clarify why you want this policy, because you have the word encouragement there. Is it just to, is it for buildings that are owned by council or going to be refurbished or built by council or by state or by local residents or by developers? I'm a little bit confused. About how
Yeah,
broad
so-
you want this to be.
As a fair few councils around the place already do this, essentially the idea is that it's mainly been quite successful in public buildings. So if we were to build one, if we were to build a public building, and that was that had the potential to be a building material that could be used, we would seek that out. And that would be what it's for. So that's why I've also asked for the briefing. Is that when we go through the briefing, you'll see some of the buildings that the libraries, aquatic centres, which is a bit ironic, wood floating. Anyway, there's actually been some really, really good buildings, and I think they've even put in. So they're starting to put in sort of high density stuff, so apartments and that made out of this stuff. So get a briefing, get an understanding on it, and then we bring it back. So let's take out 2.
Okay.
In terms of wording, can I suggest leaving 2 in there but adding if feasible following the briefing, if feasible, commence work on a draft wood encouragement policy?
It's up to the mover. It's up to the mover. Are you happy to have it feasible?
We'll get rid of 2.
What are you doing, sorry, Councillor?
Let's get rid of point 2.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll
We've
bring
got
it back for a
seconder.
third time.
We got a seconder? No, thank you, Councillor Kanib. Is there any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour? Those in favour? Those against? I'm going to do it again because some people... Oh, yeah, there we go. Do it again. Those in favour? Those against? It's defeated. Okay, next item is on page 931. Yes, 931, which is in your confidential items. For motion. On page 931, there is a motion in your confidential book. Would somebody like to move a motion?
Mayor, I'll move a motion that exempts us from going to tender, so whatever those words are, because of the reasons outlined. I believe that is required. And also, and I saw an email come through with some wording, but I don't know.
Yes, I saw that too.
But council engage its former, I don't know, I haven't got those words in front of me.
The New South Wales Electoral Commissioner?
Correct.
Okay.
We prepared an alternative motion for that I believe Mr. Jodakis will be able to get up, so we've got it for you.
Okay, as the motion is supplied by...
Given that nobody's
Yep,
talking.
there it is.
Thank you, I'll
Moved
move
by
that one.
Councillor Chitty.
I'll second it.
Hold on.
Councillor Rhodes, hold on, we're moving and seconding. Yes, Councillor Chitty. Councillor Haggerty, sorry.
Just need some time to
Too many
read this one. It's very long.
It has to meet a certain legal requirement.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, okay. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Next item. So that was just going... We're going with the Electoral Commission. Is that right? Just making sure.
Yep. And fine, councillors,
Thank
it's
you.
a matter for you to determine.
Right, next item's on 946. Legal Affairs.
If nobody's got anything that they want to pull out of that, I'm happy to move that as...
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Any other seconders? Thank you, Councillor Hull. Any opposition? I'll put it. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried. Given there's no other business, the meeting is closed. Thank you all very much for coming.